But you got the... Oh, shit. Ghost whistle.
Bit to the time. Oh, got to pay for you. Anything goes if it's out of line from a couple of coffee men.
Many a time you have expressed not only your love for Beetlejuice, 1989, right? 1989?
I think no, I think it was like earlier, wasn't it?
Whenever Al was super freaking a fetus and barely sentient.
Because Batman was 89.
Oh, yeah, that's true, huh? So 88? I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
The point is, we love Beetlejuice, even though we don't know when the hell it came out. but you have expressed not only your love for it, but your disdain at the possibility of there being a sequel. Now, whatever disdain you may have or may not have had, the sequel happened after so many years. Tim Burton came back, Michael King came back, everybody basically came back except for Jeffrey Jones, who I theorize is still getting paid, despite the fact that clearly they're going, we're not paying this guy. But anyway, the point is, most of the people came back, and we have a sequel. Now, I don't really know how you were going to react to it. I have a feeling you fucking loathe it. But we're going to talk about it, that's for sure. And let's start right out the gate with saying how you felt before you went in to see it.
Well, before?
Yeah, like right before.
Right before. I was like, okay, this is going to be alright. Because you had seen it.
Uh-huh.
And you were like, it was pretty good, eh? So
no, I didn't say it's pretty good. I said, I think you're going to like it. But I could be horribly wrong. So that's my exact quote.
Well, yeah, but I was like, my boy thought I was going to like it. It'll be good, okay?
Right.
I think my hate at the idea had left me at that point.
Okay. So you went in with some hope.
I was open.
You were open.
Like my a-hole.
I mean, that's for completely different reasons, but yes.
But I will say that after we saw this, I had to mull.
Chew, if you will.
I don't think I've mulled over a movie as much as I have this film. I even made notes, guy.
I can appreciate
I have notes.
Well, look, I'm going to say this. I can appreciate you mulling over it because that's very un-Alien of you. Yeah. Al would just hate. In case you're wondering which Al, you know which Al. If you don't, doesn't matter. The first time I watched it, now, don't get me wrong, I said I like it. But one, it's evident to me and to everybody with a brain cell, I hope, that this is not anywhere near to the original. I think it's really a fool's endeavors to try to get their way. Tim Burton's a lot like Steven Spielberg. They're just not doing the same things they were in the 80s. They almost can't touch that stuff again. But I will say this about Beetlejuice. I ended up almost, after some mulling, mind you, almost immediately going, yeah, I like it. Despite issues here and there. Because even though it touches a lot of that original ground, it kind of like does it in a weird, different way. It has a completely different vibe. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it's touching similar themes. Yes, it has a similar structure, all that stuff that you would expect in a sequel, for better or for worse. But it does approach it in kind of like a different feeling way. You know, the movie's kind of like a weird amalgam of vibes. There's like a Halloween-y vibe to it that's pretty fucking present. Almost like a 90s Halloween-y vibe to it, too. You know, so there's that, and there's, you know, a variety of elements at play that feel like, yes, you're going back in, but you're also not going back in the exact same way, despite a lot of the similar stuff, right? So, all said and done, after my mulling, I was like, I enjoyed that quite a bit. There's a lot to be... It's chaotic. The movie's chaotic, but I think it's chaotic by design. You know, there's a controlled chaos. There's a lot going on. Yes, some people have valid complaints in saying that some characters are not fully fleshed out, but this is a movie where all the chaos comes down to a culmination and all the pieces like play together well towards this ending, which you're either going to hate or love, because it's all basically to this song that, by the way, is a very divisive song in terms of, you know, it's one of those songs that a lot of people are like, I hate that, just because it exists. But it all plays out to this big kind of like musical ending that both harkens back to obviously a musical sequence in the original, but it's completely tonally different despite all those similar callbacks, you know. On the note of callbacks, I also like that this wasn't a movie that was reliant on the cheesy callback. Obviously, structurally, it follows a lot of the same beats with different approaches, but, you know, there's some movies where you're like, geez, okay, stop, we get it. That thing happened in the first one. Stop bringing it up. I didn't feel like there was a lot of that in this. I felt the ones that did happen were like, that's fine and are amusing even at times, and that's cool. Our former co-host was, like you, very confused as to how he thought of what he thought about it. I still don't know really what he thought about it, but after he explained it to me, his thoughts, I was like, I think you hate it. So his complaints were a lot to do with how the characters played out. He found them to be, especially Delia, to be like, as he said, parodies of themselves. I didn't agree with the Delia thing because Delia is big, a big character. She's melodramatic. She's selfish. She's Delia. She's Delia in the movie. What you would expect her to do, for better or for worse, she does. The one that struck me out the gate, I was like, man, Lydia feels so wrong.
Yeah.
Because, but again, in terms of the movie, you're like, oh, okay, this is why she's like this. But it still does feel very freaking weird to see Lydia being so weak-willed, because she's not weak-willed in the original.
It's almost like a completely different character.
Yeah. So it does feel super strange at first with her, especially for me. And I guess you agree on that too. But it plays out to the themes and the parallels that are being played out with the other characters and the overall movie. I think it pans out well in terms of that. But that to me was like, whoa, what's going on with Lydia? Another thing that I know a lot of people probably have a gripe with is Justin Theroux's character.
Hated him.
I mean, mind you, you're supposed to hate him.
Yeah, but he's not funny. He's not.
Yeah.
It's not an Otho situation.
It's not.
That's one of my notes, by the way. Otho was sucky, but he was entertainingly sucky.
Yeah.
I think I just dislike this guy, the actor.
Yeah.
Because he just licks.
So there's a theme about, toxicity in relationships, and obviously overcoming that. Dog chiming in about that. Too. Are you supposed to make a toxic guy likable? Well, you can, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying they totally didn't.
No.
And I don't know if that was by choice or not. Now, another thing that I will agree with, some things that I've heard, some whispers that I've heard, is some people are like, well, it's not as funny as the original. I agree, it's not as funny, but it strikes me more as like, kind of like an Afterlife or Frozen Empire situation. They're not as funny as the original Ghostbusters, but they're still likable movies, and they still feel good. I mean, depending on your personal taste, obviously. Al certainly doesn't think so for Frozen Empire, and you for Afterlife. But they still feel like they belong in their world. They don't violate anything, and there's also something to be said about trying to recapture the exact same tone of comedy. I feel like it probably would have been more disastrous if they really leaned into that. But anyway, I mean, that's just an opinion. We don't know because it didn't happen, and likely won't. So that's kind of like after mulling where I was. Now, you've already chimed in on some things that you agree, but please flesh out your further marinating that you did.
I'm gonna go through my list.
Okay, go to the
things
list.
I hated.
Things you hated. Go.
The music. I hated the soundtrack.
You know what? My friend in Canada, she's a huge Beetlejuice fan. She said the exact same thing. I hated the music.
Super annoying. Correct. Just to be clear, the music is fine. The soundtrack, the selections they picked, horribly annoying and don't fit with the movie at all, in my opinion. To go along with that,
okay.
Deo cringe.
We bitched about this in our when we saw the teaser, was it? How there was a Deo being sung at the fucking
it's so bad, dude.
Funeral, and it's in the movie, man. I was hoping that it was just some bullshit they put in for the sake of the teaser, but it's in the movie, and it makes absolutely no sense. Especially because we know that Beetlejuice was not a positive experience for these people.
Yeah.
It was a positive experience for the people viewing the movie, but it wasn't the positive. And this movie reiterates the fact that it was traumatic to them, to Lydia especially. Here, her dad dies, and at the graveside, they have a choral Deo.
Makes
Why?
no sense. Makes no sense.
And then you also point out further to the point that this doesn't belong there is the whole Deo was more of the Maitland's things.
Yeah,
now, granted,
Belafonte was.
But it became part of the fabric of the Dietzes too by default of what happened to them. But again, that was
not
negative thing.
Yeah, not a positive thing.
Hella shitty choice.
Now this one I think is where I don't know. We might disagree on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the ending was mega lazy. mega retread of the first one, like super unoriginal, and I hated the musical number.
Okay, we will disagree on this. One, I think the ending fits together very well, but two, it's very dependent on how you react to MacArthur Park, the song. You know, like, again, going back to my friend in Canada, she just fucking hates that song, and she hated the soundtrack too. I didn't mind the soundtrack, by the way. Yes, it doesn't fit tonally with the soundtrack of the original, but that was, again, more towards the Maitlands, catered towards the Maitlands, and of course Danny Elfman's score. Here we have a soundtrack that very purposely kind of treads its own thing, for better or for worse. You're gonna love it or hate it, apparently, right? I didn't mind it at all. I enjoyed it. Now
I think it's overly loud. Like, constantly I was just like, shut up. with the soundtrack.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even really notice it, with the exception of MacArthur Park. And by notice, I mean it didn't really enter my sphere of thinking. The second viewing, I was more cognizant of it. But again, I don't know. But the ending is all basically choreographed to MacArthur Park, and all these threads come together, not only fitting to the song.
Well, let me continue on why I think it's just a freaking retread to the max. First of all, it's the same thing as the first movie. He wants to marry the chick, which is fine, makes sense with Beetlejuice. I feel like they could have come up with something else. Like, it's just the same thing again, down to how they defeat the villain with the sandworm. It was just like seeing something done again, only not as good. And then, of course, you have the song.
I'll agree with you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the thing is, and again, this is a you'll like it or not type of thing. It's a very intentional retread. You know what I'm saying? Thematically, we have the toxicity of the relationship, these people overcoming. Beetlejuice got his own thing. You know, obviously, Lydia with her manipulative BF. Astrid, her daughter, with her own thing. So all these threads are coming together. And of course, we bring back the marriage thing because that's Beetlejuice's way out, but now he wants a way out. You know, it makes sense, but you're either going to like that or not like that. A lot of sequels do retread stuff, sometimes to their detriment, sometimes they can get away with it. I don't think it's something that somebody has to like, but I don't think it's lazy. I think it's actually cleverly plotted out and brought together. But it is a love it or hate it type of thing. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. Here's the thing, like, I put it under hated thing, but I don't think I truly hated anything in the movie. It was just kind of like, you know what I felt like? I felt like Al when he saw Deadpool. I was just kind of experiencing it and being like, that's a thing.
Al, guy? You felt like Al?
I felt like Al during it, guy.
I feel like that discredits anything.
No.
You gotta rephrase that. You felt like Al? One of the worst movie watchers in history?
I felt the feeling Al felt, where he was just like watching something and not really like enjoying it. Just kind of being like, that's a thing I'm watching.
Yeah, but you gotta distance yourself from the Al aspect. You just
I shouldn't have brought up Al.
That's a bad, you know.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah. Next point, is something I already mentioned. Rory hated him.
I just think inherently that character was gonna suck.
Hey, also, you don't get like, and I guess I'll bring this point up because we were talking, me and the Guardian, about it. You don't get like a satisfying, like, you know, like Otho got his polyester suit at the end that I didn't understand.
Yeah, I was about to say, satisfying though that was, you didn't understand the joke.
You know, he doesn't get like a satisfying, like, you suck moment. He gets like slightly scared and that's it. And then we're talking about it, and I feel like there's just so many unsatisfying things in the movie. And he mentioned it too, that there's like two plots going on at the same time. They're interesting, or somewhat interesting, but they don't really flesh out both of them. That's what he said. That's not what I said, but and I kind of see what he's talking about, because I think these two stories are only half interesting. And they were like, let's put them together and make something interesting fully, but it doesn't come together for me, and it's just kind of uninteresting. Like, the real world stuff is super uninteresting to me. It gets kind of interesting at one point, but it's just kind of like a thing you're watching for a while. I saw someone else mention that it's kind of just like meandering for a while until it starts getting interesting. Kind of don't agree with that. You know, there is a lot of stuff going on. It's just, for me,
I'll tell you what I don't.
There's a lot of stuff. Finish. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's just kind of uninteresting.
I
Unfortunately.
feel like you just said the same sentence again. But anyway.
I was trying to find my thought, eh?
I feel like you just repeated the sentence.
You think.
I won't agree with this. People saying it's confusing.
Super
Super not confusing. I saw that so many times. I was like, what are you talking about? I feel like a lot of people, themes in movies fly over their heads. You know what I'm saying? Like a good one was like BVS. Like they just were like completely oblivious. Not everybody, but a lot of people were completely oblivious to the thematic elements that bind a movie together. And there's a lot of movies that use that as a driving force. I think this is one of them. I'm not saying it's a great movie in that respect. I'm just saying this is one of them. And sometimes you have to see a movie through the thematics rather than just plainly to the story to feel what the intention was, you know what I'm saying, or feel more of it. So I'm just pointing that out because I think this is a movie that uses thematics as a way to bind the movie. I mean, most clearly by the way everything, ends up being in this thing. Everybody's kind of going through their own version of the same problem in their own worlds, So it uses these thematics to drive these really like more than two main storylines, three really, going forward. We have Astrid's storyline, we have Lydia's storyline, and Beetlejuice's storyline are the main ones. And they're all in a version of the same thing, and thematically it's what's driving the movie. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I have noticed that a lot of alien response to movies that are driven more by theme to get the plot across than the plot to get a theme across. But anyway, whatever. Go ahead. Continuing your list of hate.
Hate list. Alien hate list, yeah.
Were you in a corner in a party writing?
Yeah. Oh, this one I'll mention, though I think it's one of those that's going to get better with subsequent viewings. And I will say that some of these things are going to be that.
Okay.
I hated Astrid. Thought she was super annoying. Granted, that is kind of by design. She kind of grows into her own towards the middle. But I kind of just didn't like her. Same with freaking Stinkery.
Well, yeah, he sucks. I loved Astrid. Why? Because she's the one that's going, what the fuck? And then you have to put her in the world that she's in, Like, I feel like that's what... If somebody was claiming to be a psychic in our... If I was like, I'm a psychic, and, my life was driven by that, you'd be like, what is this asshole doing, bro? You wouldn't believe me, right? But anyway, I feel that that's the anchor... To me, that she was the anchor that made me hold on for Lydia's eventual... Obviously, she was going to come around. And, that's the driving force of the movie, the relationship between these two. But I loved her. I loved her.
Hated her.
Now,
granted... not even hated. I'm just disliked.
She needed, in my opinion, to be a bigger part of the story at the beginning. Because her turning point is kind of like the big point where the whole movie is like flips over. Obviously, if you haven't seen the movie, I won't ruin what that is, but... Her turning point in the movie is like, oh, okay, everybody's story starts to lock together from that point forward. So she's like a huge crux of it. But, yeah, I like her. But
it's just something very annoying about someone going against a character you like. And I know it's very intentional, but it doesn't make it...
But see,
doesn't make her likable.
That's why I liked her, not only because I understood her character, but because we needed kind of to not like Lydia. It was hard to dislike Lydia at first. But it was easy to understand why she was unlikable up to the point anyway. Anyway, go ahead.
There's also a scene with Lydia and Delia that's just exposition to the max. And it's really clunky. Mm-hmm. Normally I don't care about that shit, but it was so like sore thumb, that I was just like, Jesus, they're just dumping information on you, aren't they?
I agree.
This is my things I wasn't even mad at, just disappointed.
Okay.
Soul Train. Hated that.
Hate? I thought it was in the hate list.
Well, that's a good point. But it wasn't even like a hate reaction. I was just like, that's the thing they did. It doesn't fit with the Dead World at all. And it's just clearly there just for the pun. Also, I hate disco. in the Dead World. It's like, what is this, man? What is this freaking thing? I hated it, but I didn't actually hate it. I was just like, that's a thing they did.
I like it.
Super again, going to that super loud soundtrack that I was just like, dude, don't do that.
I feel like you're 80 years old secretly though.
No, I hated that, man. I didn't hate it. I was just disappointed.
Yeah, I like how it's not on the hate list. It's the most hated thing so far.
Yeah. The overall lack of creepiness, kind of hated that, or was disappointed at. I have to keep rephrasing.
Do you think the first one's creepy?
There's a creepy air to it. You know, like the scene with the freaking janitor showing them what happens. I always thought that was creepy. Just the way things feel. You know, like when that little midget comes out, you're like, oh, that feels creepy. There's a creepy feel to it. There's none of that in this one. They do show you more of the dead world, but it just doesn't have that otherworldly feel to me. Okay. To me.
I feel like that's tramping into Al territory, but I understand what you're saying.
No.
But personally, I never thought the first one was creepy. I thought it looked cool. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to look at here.
Well, you're also freaking a jaded piece of shit that's been watching horror since he was a fetus, guy.
I'm just saying, guy. I'm just saying my side of the coin. I was like, first one's not creepy. But anyway, go ahead.
I also think the first one has beautiful moments that are lacking in this one completely.
Beautiful moments?
Yeah, dude, the Maylands at the end, crumbling and being sad, but loving each other still. That's beautiful, guy.
I feel like this one has one too.
No, sucks.
You just hate Astrid, apparently.
I do, guy.
Yeah, that's bad.
I didn't like her at all.
She's great.
Super
Love her.
sucky. It's too goofy.
Goofy?
It's way too goofy at times. Beetlejuice is cranked up to 11. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's like, God, shut up.
Shut up, guy. Name 1 point. I'm just saying because I'm interested.
Plenty of them, okay?
Well, name one though. I want to see what made you go, shut up, BJ.
Just anything where he's like freaking yelling, dude. It's like shit.
Yelling. I don't think he yelled at all, guys.
It's too goofy, guy. Baby Juice. Now, granted, I didn't hate Baby Juice, but that's a moment where it was way too goofy. You're doing Baby Juice, guy? I actually didn't hate Baby Juice at all, but it was way too goofy.
I feel like you're going too hard on Baby Juice. Because you felt the need to go hard on Baby Juice.
No, I said I actually ended up not hating Baby Juice, but
you shouldn't be on the list.
That is a moment where it was way too goofy.
Was it though?
Yep. Again, I mentioned the pretty damn uninteresting real world story, so I won't retread that boy like they retreaded the ending of the first movie. Things I liked. We're getting to the positives now.
Okay.
The non-CGI effects.
Okay.
I do think some of the CG was a little whack. Some of it worked. Like I thought the bride putting herself together, though super CGI, actually looked kind of cool in its weird kind of jankiness. But yeah, anyway, the effects were cool. So there's that. Bob, can't hate Bob.
You were determined to hate him.
I was ready to hate Bob.
Yeah.
Because they were going...
Alien, by the way.
Nah.
They were going in wanting to hate something as Alien.
Nah, homie. A lot of my pre-hate came down to that awful freaking marketing they did for it.
It doesn't matter.
Talk about cringe. TikTok Beetlejuice, hated that. Bob, too much Bob in the promotional stuff. That being said, Bob's cool. Like Bob.
I still say going in pre-hating is Alien.
No, because I was pre-hating.
I didn't say you. I said that's a statement of fact.
Oh yeah, we can agree on
that's
that.
all I'm saying.
We can agree on that one. I like the Halloween vibe. It is kind of a unique Halloween vibe. That's pretty cool. Dead World look, though very different, was cool. Though horribly underused. I do think Willem was pretty cool. There was 2 times where I chuckled. Only 2 times because I find this movie horribly unfunny.
Horribly, as in it's a bad thing?
Which you mentioned earlier. No, it's just not a funny movie.
Okay.
Horribly unfunny, some might say.
I feel like you just hate it, guy.
Well, let me get around to it, guy.
I feel like you're not.
Anyway, I like the coffee cup gag. That was pretty funny. And Juice stamping that boy was the other time I laughed. Even though I kind of felt like they dropped that plot point a little too early. I was kind of interested by that. One of the few things I was interested with in... I'm turning too much shade in there.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting some Al vibes.
My boy Danny, he's in it.
That's it. So, if the original Beetlejuice for us both, I think, is a 10, one of my favorite movies of all time, must have rented that tape from the local mom and pop a million times. So much so that I was credited as the guy that they had to replace the tape because of. I rent that boy almost weekly, guy.
You didn't magically know that it was going to air on HBO and recorded?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't have the precognizance of Al freaking Smith. But anyway, yeah, you know, I absolutely love Beetlejuice. I know you do too. It's ingrained. And it's very hard to face something that you're so used to and just, you know, have to see something, especially so many years later. That's, you know, inherently it's not going to
it's just not
match
gonna,
1, 2, and then it's going to be different. So out the gate, this boy is not even getting close to like a freaking 9 or an 8 even in my book. Because of that. It's just there's a chasm between it and the original. Though I like it. So as a guy that liked it, I'm going to give it a 7. because it's hella fun, in my opinion. Now, I know, there's people who are not going to agree with me, and that's fine. That's what opinions are. But I had a lot of fun. And I'm not saying this about you, because you're not Al. I'm not one to take something that I love and go and compare when I'm watching it. So out the gate, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? It's either going to be good or bad as its own thing. I think, unlike a modern Spielberg movie that tries to recapture the 80s fantasy feel, this one at least touches upon it, but understands, Burton, I mean, in this case, that he's not the same guy. But he's going to do this thing that, at least for some people, it's gonna jive. And it's hella imperfect, don't get me wrong. And there's moments where I was like, I wish that wasn't there. But for the most part, I had a lot of fun. And then upon second viewing, I had even more fun. But yeah, I agree more than not, and sometimes lesser than, into with some of your hate lists. But I didn't hate the movie 7. It's my score. Give me your final thoughts on your score. Go.
I was gonna give it a 7 when we left the film.
Mm-hmm.
But upon more, I think I was being too nice because I wanted it to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about it, and I can't give it more than a 6. Mm-hmm. It's like a enjoyable 6, though.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's your final thoughts, guys.
Just a 6, boy. Don't hate it. I think it's fine.
I think it's better than we probably were expecting.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I was for a while. I was like, this is gonna suck. I don't want this. So I was like, all right, I'll take fine.
Coming at completely different angles from this one.
I think we can agree that Bob is pretty great.
Well, he's a cute motherfucker. That's all I gotta say about Bob. Want to pinch his cheeks, and I don't mean the back ones. Thankfully. Willem Dafoe ruled, by the way, in case you didn't catch my thoughts on that, which I didn't say. He freaking rules. I love him.
Man, I wish there was more of him. Honestly,
love him, guy.
He was great.
But yeah, anyway, that's our thoughts on Beetlejuice. Honestly, I hope there's a Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I feel like though the ending is kind of self-contained, I'll be a little disappointed if there isn't a third one, because it's making, like they just kind of like did that stinger and you're like, why?
It's making a lot of good money, so hopefully. And yeah, the stinger, I mean, yeah, like you say, self-contained. Feels a lot like, in the first one, yeah, there's still the open threat of Beetlejuice. He's still there. Only this one feels a little bit more purposeful.
Yeah.
Like he's...
Also, just naming the movie Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's...
like, come on.
Come on, okay.
The freaking Tim Burton's like, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah.
Just make it, you turd.
He's gonna, I hope.
Better, man.
But anyway, there you have it. That's our thoughts on Beetlejuice. I will say this, at least we're not Al and fucking wanting to go work in bureaucracy forever over a movie. So there's that. Anyway, let us know what you thought about it. In the meantime, we're out.